Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I woke up 7 times a day. It's easy feeling long to came. They get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice the struggle in force. But only when got been back, just sliding got me. I didn't think it ever come.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. It's a great day in the East Kootenays again. Had a little rain yesterday, which hasn't been, too fabulous because I don't mind a bit of rain. It's taken down the snow a bit. So we're going to be speaking to a patient today that basically has been held hostage, how I feel, by Health Canada, with putting in their application to Health Canada for their garden. And this was back in April. So Matt and his wife hail out of Stony Plain, Alberta. Now, if you remember back about 2 years ago, Janice and Bob Sear ran macros out in Edmonton, and they lived in Stony Plain, Alberta. And the same type of thing happened with them holding their MMAR. So I'm going to welcome Matt to the show. Good morning, Matt. How are you this morning?
I'm great.
This has been. I'm going to give the listeners a bit of a background. I've been speaking with Matt and for the last couple of weeks, well, a week and a half, 2 weeks here, trying to help them get through this ordeal because it's been quite an ordeal from the very get-go. Now, Matt applied for his ACMPR paperwork in April and didn't realize, because they're new to the program. I'm going to make this clear. They're not on social media. They don't know who I am or who any of the other activists in Canada are. They're not in tune to our cannabis community. So there are people that, Matt, we'll ask you, Matt, how did this get started? Because you were injured in an injury. You have an injury, right?
Yeah, I've worked the oil patch pretty much my whole life since I was 18, and just injury upon injury. Eventually, I had a compressed disc in between my fourth and fifth vertebrae. They sent me for MRIs, and they ended up having me on a prescription of 60 milligrams of oxycodone a day. And this was an alternative because once I didn't realize how addictive that substance was that they were giving me, because they've been pushing it as a non-addictive substance. And lo and behold, after they prescribe it to you, oh, by the way, you're going to be addicted to it. So I had to fight to get off of that, and I switched over to a different form of medication that didn't affect me quite as severely, which was my medical prescription for marijuana.
Now, your prescription for oxycodone, were you still working while you were prescribed that, or were you off work?
I was working. The last job I worked, they had drug dogs come through the site, and the drug dogs hit on my lunch pail, and they forced me to do a drug test, and they said I failed for marijuana at that time. And then I had switched it over after that process from losing my job.
But they didn't say anything about the oxycodone, right? Like, it was okay for you to be taking the oxycodone, but you were, then drug tested for cannabis. And that in itself is a hypocrisy, right?
Well, at first, I started requesting to get switched off the prescription of oxycodone, and my doctor would not assist me in these matters. I actually had to go find a completely new doctor to help me switch off of this prescription that I was becoming addicted to.
Right. And you weren't able to get your cannabis prescription in Alberta. You had to travel out of province to get that too, did you not?
That's right. I went and I saw a specialist, and he helped me switch off over to that. And I use it for a lot of topical creams, and I infuse it into Epsom salts to put in the bath because my sciatic locks up so bad. I need it to release, and I find this is such a better treatment for myself. I have no withdrawal effects. It doesn't affect my life. I'm able to play with my children and not be in screaming pain from their back.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's it. Quality of life. So where did you travel? Where did you travel? You had to go to BC to get your cannabis license.
Yeah, in Chilliwack. I had to go to Chilliwack.
Right, so that cost you a fair bit of money.
And I saw the doctor. I didn't do a FaceTime appointment or anything like that. I went and saw the doctor, and I have my whole medical history from it. And I've done MRIs that show that I have a compressed disc in my back that pushes on the nerve, and it's always there, never going away.
Right. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that it's chronic pain that you have to live with the rest of your life. Now let's go back.
The thing that people don't understand is chronic pain. It just never goes away. It's always there, and you're just trying to manage it.
Right, pain control, which I think most of us have to deal with on a daily basis. The actual pain control, and it's a diversion, right, more than anything. Now, let's get. So you went out to see the doctor in Chilliwack, and then you filled out your papers for Health Canada, and you guys submitted them in April, correct? Now, did you have any?
The application in, I do believe it was July 10th, just because I've been to figure out this process, it's been really difficult for us. I'm not going to lie. It's, like I said, my own doctor that I've been seeing since 5 years old wouldn't prescribe a switch over in medication. I had to actually go out of province to find a doctor that would actually help me in this process.
Right. So then you got your prescription. You filled out the application, but you had no help filling out that application. You had no idea pretty much what you were doing with it, right?
No, I'd had a ACMPR application from the doctor, and I was told to fill out an application and send that in with it.
Right.
And when I sent in my documentation the original time, I just thought, because from what I understand with Health Canada, they have 100,000 applications waiting to be processed, that it was just waiting to be processed. And so I thought I was in the process. I thought I was in the clear when I spoke to Health Canada. They had informed me that the legal part of it is they date the registration to the doctor filling out that form. And so from my understanding, that made me able to do what I was doing because they were dating it to date of doctors. So I'm getting quite confused with Health Canada, and even I spoke with Health Canada this morning, and I couldn't get a straight answer out of them because I apparently do not have access to it. I'm not understanding it completely, or
right, and I think that's where that's where Health Canada drops the ball. Is they make it sound like as soon as your doctor has signed your paperwork, you're good to go. Their process is only just to then authorize it and then send it back to you. So a lot of people are under the understanding, like yourselves, that the minute the doctor signed your paperwork, you were legal to put your plants in the ground. And in reality,
but one of the problems is that no matter what, as soon as Health Canada accepts one of your applications, and if you have, say, one thing not filled out correctly on your application, they send it back to you, and then that's the end of it. And they don't have a connection between an open case, say for me, they completely closed that, and then they have completely reopened it on another date when I've sent in the proper requested paperwork, because I'm getting lost in all this paperwork here. Apparently I sent in something that needed the originals, and so they said they closed that and have opened a whole new thing at a whole new date for me.
Right.
Like the application form doesn't keep going from when they first received the documentation from me. They actually close it down and send you the documentation back. And then when you send it to them again, they completely reopen it.
Right. Absolutely. Because once you send it in, they've got record that it's been received. But if there's a mistake on it, like with ours too, right? They sent ours back to us with the actual express post envelope in it with a letter stating that we had these mistakes. They keep no record that we've applied for this, and to fix the mistakes and send them back. So then your date of arrival then. So our first original was February. We got them back in April. They went back in April. So then our start date again was then April. So, here we were thinking, okay, February, we're good. April comes along, we get the paperwork back. We're not good. We're not, you have to send the originals in, and you sent in photocopies because you didn't know any different. Nobody told you it had to be. And then you didn't even know that there was anything wrong with them for months. And then you finally get them back. It's the same with us. We didn't have any idea there was anything wrong. We didn't receive a letter in the mail. It was 3 months. It was February, March, April, 2.5 months before we knew there was anything wrong with our paperwork. Same with you. How many months was it before you knew there was anything wrong with the paperwork?
Well, I just spoke with Health Canada this morning, and they have now told me that they have received my documentation on November 3rd, and that's what they're going off of. I'm like, well, what about this time before or this time before that you've received my paperwork? They're like, well, that doesn't have any applicable requirements. So they open it up once again. So they close down your account every time you send it and have it messed up, pretty much.
Right. And that's exactly what they do to anybody that doesn't have.
I'm going upon November 3rd as the date that Health Canada has now received my new application in their eyes for that.
Right. And now, what was the date that your doctor signed that paperwork?
April 9th.
So when you do get your ACMPR paperwork back, your expiry date will be April 9th. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though you've waited 9 months. So you're basically like myself too. We have to go and reapply right away before we even turn around. And my doctor's like, I mentioned that to her last week when I was in there. I said, I'm going to have to come see you in a couple weeks and get that paperwork for Health Canada filled out again. She goes, really? I says, yeah, and we just got it. I says, we only have till February 1st and it's going to expire again. She goes, she was just flabbergasted because of the fact of the wait times. And that's, I think, why we want to hold Health Canada to task on this, because patients shouldn't have to be, first of all, left hanging in the lurch, not understanding what the paperwork is to begin with. There's no instruction on their website. There's no phone number, call center that you can call and say, hey, can you, help me out with this? You can't, you yourself can't walk into the federal building, like say, Alberta federal building and have a little kiosk set up where there are women or men or whoever sitting there to help you work, fill out these paperwork like they do with your unemployment, per se. Like if you need help filling out your unemployment papers, there's somebody at, the federal building to come and help you with that. But if you want your, medical marijuana papers filled out, there's nobody to help you with that. So this is a huge gap in our system to begin with. And so in the interim, though, you guys have pretty much been left with your plants being taken from you anyways, right?
Yeah, so basically, from my understanding, when Health Canada sits there and tells you that they date their registration, which is what makes you legally able to produce your own marijuana, from my understanding, they date it to the dates that the doctor signed it. So from my understanding, that was the date that is giving you permission to do that. I didn't understand all of this legal paperwork. I thought once I had a prescription. So now they're telling me that I don't, because I said, well, in the meantime, how am I supposed to access my prescription? And they said that I'm not even able to access my prescription to be able to purchase from an LP until they give me this registration number. So I asked them, I said, I'm stuck in limbo here. I don't have access to my medicine. And they said, you just have to sit and wait.
Yeah. Yep. Isn't that compassionate?
Well, how do I access my prescription in the meantime while you're figuring out whatever you need to figure out? And they said there isn't, which doesn't make sense. I don't even have access to this. So on the 18th, the police conducted a search warrant on my home, and I let them in and showed them everything that I had, and they arrested me and cut everything down. They left living plants in my home. They confiscated living plants. They confiscated about a quarter of my dried cannabis for my medication, and they left me about 4 pounds in my home saying for my medication. When they released me from jail, they said that they had left me my medication in my home of my marijuana. So I'm really confused in the law, because now I've been charged with production of my own medicine underneath the criminal code, from my understanding.
Yeah, and that's where the confusion begins, right? We're going to take a quick break, Matt, and listen to a song, and we'll come back and we'll kind of get back into what other things this all has entailed, and why the confusion for many people. You're not, the unfortunate thing for you is that you are, you're not alone. This has happened to other people, but just not recently with the new program. And why we want to make, we want to get the awareness out there. We want to make people aware of your situation. We want to try and, you've got a GoFundMe account set up, so we want to get the link sent out for that, so we can start getting you maybe some funding. Because the fact of the matter is they've given you legal aid, and your legal aid lawyer, apparently you were telling me, was retiring. So we'll come back and talk about all the gong show that I'm, basically been hearing for the last few weeks with lawyers and everything. So I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, MUM, the Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, the Haley Rose Foundation. And we'll be right back after Peter Tosh's Bush Doctor. We'll be right back.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process, and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet: www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society. Or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Warning. The Surgeon General warns. Cigarette smoking is dangerous. Dangerous. Hazard to your health. Does that mean anything to you? Them legalize marijuana. Right here in Jamaica, yeah. Them say it cure glaucoma, yeah. I'm an the bush doctor, yeah. So there'll be no more smoking and feeling tense. When I see them come, I don't have to jump. Legalize marijuana. Down here in Jamaica, yeah. Only cure for asthma, yeah. I'm an active minister, yeah. So there'll be no more police brutality, no more disrespect for humanity. Legalize marijuana, yeah. Down here in Jamaica, yeah. Can build up a failing economy, yeah. Eliminate the slavish mentality. So there'll be no more illegal humiliation and no more police interrogation. Legalize marijuana. Down here in sweet Jamaica. Only cure for glaucoma. I'm an addy bush doctor, yeah. And there'll be no more need to smoke and hide. When you know you're taking a legal ride. So legalize marijuana. Down here in Jamaica. It's the only cure for glaucoma.
You're fine. Oh, right. And we're back with Matt. And we were just talking over the break about a few things, actually, like how Matt was, we were talking about the legalities before we went to break about, what they're going through with, with the RCMP coming in and leaving them with medication and everything else that, like charging him with production and trafficking and all these charges, but yet still leaving him a fairly substantial amount of cannabis left in the house for his medical needs. But again, we want to go back to the fact that Health Canada is dropping the ball for all patients. it's just unfortunate that, Matt's, being basically the first real case that we've heard of that we're touching base with, that, you had your garden growing, obviously. And they came in, they busted, the children. Now we want to get to the point where, for our listeners as well, that the children were removed from the home, but because of the plans, but because they wanted testing, right, for air quality. So let's get into that portion. And like you were saying over the break too, like, let's be clear to my listeners. Matt is not tuned to this. He doesn't know, like, we're talking about a GoFundMe account we're trying to set up for them. He doesn't understand, like, the whole, what many of us already know, right? Because we're not on social media. So he's kind of a greenhorn, I guess is how I want to put that. So, why, this is also overwhelming to this family, because in the interim, he's got children. He's worked in the oil patch. He's has attainably lost everything right now at this point. Now they wanted you to do air testing, right, Matt, on the house before the kids.
So the police had came into my home and discovered this on a prior occasion 4 days earlier, before they came and enacted their search warrant. And when they came and enacted their search warrant, thank God my family wasn't at home with me. They were at her sister's, and Child Services was involved, and they said that I wasn't allowed to bring my children home because of safety concerns, they said. So they proceeded to tell me that I needed to test the air quality, basically to the level of condemnability on my home, actually. The Child Services was telling me that I had an illegal grow in my home before I was convicted of anything, that I needed to test to the extent of testing for asbestos, and my home was built only a year ago. It was really, really odd. They were asking for legal testing that would hold up in court to prove this, but they had no legal grounds to be asking this of me, from my understanding. So they told me I need to do one air test sent off to a laboratory, and have the electrical inspected. So I had the electrical inspected by the city. Everything was fine. I had an air testing certified company come in and do one air test on the main floor of the home. It came back negative, and that wasn't acceptable for them. So Child Services paid for their own testing upon my home, and required me to give them approval to do this. And so what they did is they did an air test on each floor of the home, and one outside. And what I did was I did one air test outside and one test inside, thinking that the central laboratory would be sufficient. It wasn't. They needed 3 tests inside, one on each floor, and then one outside. So they paid this other company to do this testing. They also required a visual inspection of the home. That's something that I didn't fully do. I only did the electrical inspection. And the exact same laboratory tested both my test and then their test. And from my understanding, a legally certifying test needs 3 air tests outside to stand up in a court of law. But yet that wasn't what they had me do for them to allow my children back in the home. It took Child Services 3 weeks before they gave me written anything of what they were actually requesting of me. What they were requesting isn't what was done, which has been confusing right from the start. I've had to kick this up to ombudsman and the managers, and I've talked with my MLA, I've talked with my MP, 5 different ministries offices in the province. I'm at a loss here. No one seems to be able to help in this situation. I feel like I'm on my own here, and it's kind of scary.
And the funny thing is, we were talking again over the break too, that you don't consume by smoking most of the time. So it's not like the children are exposed to any cannabis vapor or smoke or anything, because how do you, like we were talking about, how do you consume your cannabis?
Well, I infuse it into Epsom salts, and I'll use it to soak in the tub, and I'll absorb it through osmosis in my skin. It seems to really help get it placed throughout the body for me, just because I have such pain issues. Also, I ingest it. I just eat it the majority of the time for my medication, and I'll use smoking just to fine-tune my medication amount as I go through the day, pretty much.
And you make your own extractions, and you make your own topicals, right?
No, I don't know how to make distillate.
Oh, so you're okay.
That. I have to purchase distillate, but I do make my own creams and Epsom salt infused for the bath. Like once I have the dried marijuana, you can make it into a multitude of different medications. You can make it into droppers and just drop a few drops underneath your tongue.
Yeah, tinctures and such. Yeah, and I mean, and we've really come a long way, like because you're new to the cannabis kind of scene. Because like you said, this is all new to you. Matt's never been on social media. He's never been on the air. This is the first podcast he's ever done. He's totally new to this. So there are so many things that that they've found out on their own. And that's what Canadians are doing, like looking for alternatives and looking towards other, ways of making themselves feel better. And for you to find, go ahead.
Well, the problem I'm finding is that the doctors don't even know how it's going to be relative to you in your own life, because it is such a new form of medication. It's almost trial and error at this point within yourself to find the proper dosage that allows you to function throughout your day with still being able to mediate your pain.
Right.
Just like anything, you go to a doctor and you say this isn't working, they give you something stronger. Like
absolutely.
At a 60 milligram prescription of Oxycodone, and they had worked me up to that point over a span of however long.
Right, and that's what the doctors are doing, and why people are finding that there's not the alternative availability, which is what this program was supposed to be able to do for many of us.
There's not even a procedure on how you're supposed to dose yourself with your own medication. All that is prescribed is a dried marijuana amount that you have to use at your own discretion. And the thing is when you make it into topical creams and infuse it into the bath, you're using so much more to have the same effect throughout the body because you're absorbing it through osmosis.
Right. Absolutely. Well, there's people out there that are making bath bombs and all kinds of different forms of being able to use cannabis. And that's what the Smith ruling did for us, was, be able to make us, the ability to use it in all forms. Why you can buy distillants and why you can get access to edibles. Well, depending on where you are, I guess. Edibles are something that many people use as an alternative.
Honestly, the best I found for my medication is having pure THC distillate and having pure cannabis-derived CBD distillate was honestly the best way for me to mediate my medication, because it's a combination of all ingredients within the plant that actually give you the effects. Without one, you take away from some of the effects.
Right. Absolutely.
So I found
what you want to be is
a ratio between CBD and THC I had to vary, and honestly, with each symptom of me medicating, you need to adjust that amount.
Right.
If you're trying to use this for sleep, you're not going to be wanting to use it for the same purpose as you'll change your dosage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all trial and error. Like if you find this helps you to sleep better, you need to adjust a little bit higher THC compared to CBD or vice versa, right?
Right. Yeah, but there's no direction. Like
there's no direction. This is all self-discovery I found with it by myself. Like I did not want to be on addictive substance that the FDA pushed as a non-addictive substance. I was already taking it before I even knew that it was addictive.
Exactly, and that's the thing too. So back to the whole drawback with Health Canada too. Like, so where are you now? Like now you've basically been charged. You now are seeking out legal help.
Counts. I've had to burn through my savings. I had to sell my truck. This has been really, really tough on my family here. And I don't have the money that it's going to require to fight this in court. From my understanding, I need 3 separate lawyers even to address this properly in court here. I'm at my wit's ends trying to get help from the provincial government here. Everybody doesn't know what to say or do or how to help. I've never done this before. I've never spoke with legal aid or even pursued acquiring legal aid. This time I did, and I gave them my suggestions for my lawyer, and they approved me for legal aid. But they told me that Edmonton was too far away from Stony Plain to pay travel for a lawyer from Edmonton, so they didn't accept any of my own choices for a lawyer. Didn't even send it out to them. I had spoken with the lawyers that I had suggested, and they said yes, they would take it on, but they appointed me their own lawyer, and I'm having trouble getting a meeting. Apparently, when I called his voicemail said that he had retired on November 1st. He's only taking a select amount of cases. So I can't access disclosure for my case through the provincial government. I need to access it through the federal government here. And this whole process is quite confusing because it feels like I fell right in between 2 completely contradicting laws, one on the medical side of things, that's all dictated by Health Canada, and the only thing that saves you from the criminal side of this is this registration.
Right. And that's exactly it. Like, that's why we all, search to get our paperwork signed and get a doctor to sign it. Okay, we're going to take another quick break, Matt, and we'll come back and get back to the whole, back to the Health Canada and why we're having to wait 9 months and why we have to deal with, police in our homes and basically all this with the horrific, things that you've gone through with your family. So again, I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, MUM, the Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, and the Haley Rose Foundation. Our song's going to be The Killing Time Band It doesn't make any sense.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
I think it's time for a change, to rethink things our way. Gotta know by now that this ain't working. Gotta rip it on down and start again. You know it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak. I see my friends every day, trying to live their lives their own way. While you worry about the rent, while they're living in pain, but you won't grant them the right to take it away. You know it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. You cut down an old wise tree instead of planting one that grows annually. You put us on your drugs. You know what's better for us. You chose profit over humanity. I see my friends every day, trying to live their lives their own way. When you worry about the rent, well, they're living in pain, but you won't grant them the right to take it away, no. I see my friends every day, trying to live their lives their own way. When you worry about the rent, well, they're living in pain, but you won't grant them the right to take it away. You know it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. No. Oh. You know it doesn't make sense. No.
All right, we're
Come on,
back
Evan.
with Matt. We're gonna come back. We're gonna take an extra 50 minutes because we were late getting started. So we're gonna just continue around to the quarter past the hour with Matt. So we were talking like over the break too about how people, you know, we all self-medicate. and how, cannabis access is not easily attainable, and how people self-medicate with alcohol, tobacco. So you were saying, Matt, like you infuse your own Epsom salts and use topicals and you eat it, and where's your where and this whole legality too, like being somebody that's not involved with the cannabis community, hasn't been following what's been going on over the last 10 years with cannabis. What's your take on all this legalization shit?
Honestly, I feel like I've been left to the wind by the government. I have this medical prescription from a doctor that I don't have access to legal marijuana through until Health Canada does what they need to. From my understanding, there's 100,000 unprocessed applications sitting there to be processed with Health Canada. When I speak with them, they have no idea when they're going to be getting back to me or telling me when I'll have an answer or anything. They tell me that I have to pretty much go get a whole new prescription if I just want to have access to medication while they figure out whatever they have to figure out. Apparently, you're not able to speak with anyone that actually is doing the application approvals or giving the registration numbers. You only have an intake lady that doesn't know the questions that you need answered. No one can tell me how to talk to someone that actually does fill out paperwork and give the registration number out. The questions I needed answered, the accessibility points they give me within Health Canada, they don't have the answers for you. They basically say you're on hold until they decide. Because pretty much my prescription's being held hostage by Health Canada, and I asked them if I could even access a legal means of my prescription, and they said they have no ability to do that for me. I just have to sit and wait until they go through this big pile of applications that's sitting there. They don't know where mine is, how long it'll take, when approximately they won't give you approval to start, even if they have the paperwork. But they sit there and tell you that they will be dating it to the date of doctor's prescription, but you're not allowed to start till they deem fit or even access it. So they're also holding my access to medical marijuana, not just my ability to grow my own medical marijuana.
Absolutely. And I mean, most like dispensaries online, or even in Vancouver and such, will take your doctor's signature. But if you're not in tune to that, if you don't know that, how are you supposed to? Like, I mean, it's and you're not on social media. Like, that's how are you to know any of this? And Health Canada doesn't give you any direction. They say yes, but here's the thing: the courts gave us this program because patients fought for their rights to have a medical marijuana program. So again, we're back to the courts. And that's where that leaves you back in the courts, having to fight to prove your medical need in front of a judge, to prove that you should have had access at the time of this bust, and your charges be dropped, hopefully. But in the interim, now you've got to deal with the fact you got legal aid, a lawyer that's apparently retired. You know what I mean? Like, and these are, and like I said again to my listeners, these are people that aren't in, like, you know what I mean? Like, they've never done this before. That's like throwing somebody that's never used cannabis, all of a sudden they found the alternative, and they've never had to deal with courts, legal aid, anything else. They're just, your regular neighbor across the street, and they have no idea. And there's no direction. Like you said, MPs.
The police went and asked all my neighbors as well about me. My level of degradation of character that I've been put through is actually quite astonishing. I'm being treated like I'm already guilty of something, and I haven't even been convicted of anything here. There's the police told me that I'm legally allowed to have medical marijuana, which is completely contradictory from what Health Canada is telling me. They're telling me I don't even have access to it right now.
Right. Oh, crap. I'm going to actually wrap the show up because I've got somebody at my door and it looks like it's RCMP again. So I will wrap the show up, Matt. I will phone you back after and I will talk to everybody later. You all have a great day.
And thanks for supporting the GoFundMe.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
Bueller.